Thanks for joining us for CBN Newswatch. I'm Efrem Graham. Ahead today, as the Biden administration is putting pressure on Israel to hold off or limit its invasion of the last Hamas stronghold, but a top American Christian leader has a strong warning for U.S. leaders as thousands of Christians are flocking to Israel to support it in its hour of need. It was one of the hardest hit areas during the Hamas terrorist attacks on October 7th, the Nova Music Festival. Now, many Israelis visit it daily, and we're going to show you why it's become so important. As Congress moves toward a potential ban of the popular social media app TikTok, we're going to hear from a warning from a top political researcher about how China is using it against American young people. And the battle over abortion in America is far from over as abortion advocates are fighting against state pro-life abortion bans. We're going to take you to one state where that battle is underway, in Arkansas. All those stories and more ahead today.
This is CBN News Watch.
We begin this half hour with Israel's war in Gaza as the Biden administration is pressuring Israel to hold off or limit its invasion of the last stronghold of Hamas, the city of Rafah. But as Paul Strand reports from Jerusalem, a top American evangelical is warning the U.S. could find itself in big trouble if it opposes Israel too fiercely. And thousands of Christians are rushing to the Holy Land to help in its hour of need.
Despite U.S. opposition, Israel is going forward with plans for a military operation against Rafah, the last Hamas stronghold in Gaza.
There is no safe place for terrorists in Gaza. Even those who may think that we are delayed will soon see that we can reach any place. We will eliminate Hamas.
U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is pressuring Israel to alter its war aims and make guarding the lives of civilians in Gaza its top mission.
Protecting civilians, getting people the assistance they need. That has to be job number one.
Israel's military says it's creating humanitarian islands in the middle of Gaza where displaced Palestinians can go for refuge. Israel and the U.S. are also working on a new maritime corridor, allowing massive amounts of aid to go straight from the sea to Gaza's starving civilians, bypassing Hamas and criminal gangs who've hijacked much of the aid brought over land.
This corridor will enable the distribution of up to 2 million meals every single day.
As Israel faces growing international pressure, evangelical Christians are some of its strongest supporters. Some see American support for Israel as part of America's purpose. Tony Perkins heads up an evangelical think tank in Washington.
I think America's future is intertwined with Israel's future. When you look at where America has gone in the last 60 years, as we've moved away from the Word of God, the ways of God, I think the only reason that God has sustained America is because of our stand with Israel, that we've been a bulwark for this land we're standing on.
Christians are also showing their support for the Jewish state in very practical ways. With many young Israelis called to the front lines, pro-Israel Christians from around the world are showing up to pick the crops and do other jobs those Israelis had to leave behind.
It's an honor to serve this land and to be near you, to cry with you, to pray with you.
No matter how many nations turn against Israel over the war, these Christians say they won't.
I know the whole world hates Israel. And I want to say, and we want to say as a group, we love Israel and we stand behind you.
I stand here with all my faith in the God of Israel.
War worries have slashed the number of daily visitors to Israel from 15,000 to just 3,000. And these faith-based volunteers make up as many as 1/2 of those visitors. Paul Strand, CBN News, Jerusalem.
On virtually any day in Israel, dozens, if not hundreds of people visit the Nova Music Festival memorial site. It was one of the hardest hit areas during the Hamas terrorist attacks on October 7th. And now the memorial is considered a destination for what's being called grief tourism. CBN News Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl takes us there.
The location sits in this beautiful park about 3 miles from Gaza. Placards remembering those killed and kidnapped, completed with small gardens and memorials, now fill the place.
Just want you to imagine over 3,000 people here dancing, trying to get away from all the horrors of life and then suddenly being reminded of how horrible things can be. They came here to enjoy. We never could have imagined what was going to happen next.
New Yorker Natalie Sanandaji attended Nova Festival as part of her vacation in Israel.
I danced amongst all these people. I was here, I was with them. I was dancing right next to them. unfortunately for them, a lot of them weren't as lucky as me and they didn't make it out.
She's returned twice since then and recently shared her story with Mike Pompeo and his wife. Asleep when the rockets started early that morning, a friend urged Natalie to stay calm.
Try to imagine a festival happening anywhere else in the world where suddenly rockets are intercepted over people's heads and they react in such a calm manner. That simply would not happen. But unfortunately for Israelis, this is their reality.
Although they escaped, terrorists murdered more than 360 people there, taking about another 40 hostage.
I came to offer strength to the soldiers, to offer condolences to the people who lost their loved ones, and to give hope to those who hope their families will return.
Stacy Sokol from Beth Jacobs Synagogue in Beverly Hills came during a 3-day mission to Israel.
That it's nothing like what was reported. You don't get a sense of what was going on, of how the devastation, how bad it was. You know, they gloss over the Hamas killings.
Police spokesman Dean Elsden said it took weeks to identify all the bodies.
The monster is a compliment for the terrorists. Before my job, I worked in counterterrorism. I met Hamas face to face plenty of times. But this, to see what they would do if we didn't stop them from the drop in the bucket of operations that we do day to day, right here, this is it.
As a sign of moving forward, Israel's Forestry Service recently sponsored tree planting here in memory of those killed.
By the trees, we symbolize that the state of Israel is here to stay, and that's how we see it. And that's why we decide to celebrate life due to those horrific actions that were done here by Hamas, and to tell them, you can never break our spirit. We will keep on planting, we will keep on the life here in Israel.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Re'im Park, site of the Nova Music Festival, Southern Israel.
Here at home, Congress passing a bill to try to split the popular social media app TikTok from the Chinese company that owns it. We're going to hear from a leading nonpartisan political investigator who says TikTok is one of the tools the Chinese are using to corrupt the minds of young Americans. We're going to have the story for you when we come back.
Introducing a brand new way to start your morning. Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Discover how God is moving around the world and here at home. Plus, get exclusive stories and daily scripture encouragement just for you. Stay informed. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
The House of Representatives has passed a bipartisan bill to force TikTok to separate from the Chinese company that owns it by tendance or face a ban in the U.S. Lawmakers have long expressed concerns the Chinese authorities could force ByteDance to hand over data of millions of Americans who use the app. Charlene Aaron has this story.
Members of Congress are being flooded with calls from angry constituents after passing the bill that could see TikTok banned. Lawmakers and intelligence officials say TikTok poses serious national security risks.
The bill is passed.
The House overwhelmingly passed the bill Wednesday, giving TikTok's Chinese owner, ByteDance, 6 months to sell the app or see it blocked from app stores in America.
This bill therefore forces TikTok to break up with the Chinese Communist Party.
Intelligence officials argue that TikTok poses a national security threat and that the Chinese government could demand access of TikTok's 170 million American users. They also argue that manipulation of algorithms, especially ahead of the November election, is cause for concern. Risk's FBI Director Chris Wray recently confirmed in testimony before Congress this week.
And if they went to him and said, we want you to change your algorithm so that Americans start seeing videos that hurt this candidate or help that candidate in the upcoming election, ByteDance would have to do that under Chinese law.
That's my understanding.
And if they said, we want you to put out videos that make Americans fight with each other or spread conspiracy theories and get them at each other's throat, ByteDance can't go to Chinese court and fight the Communist Party. They would have to do it.
That's my understanding.
Former President Trump, who once supported banning the app, has flipped his stance, citing it would give other social media companies like Facebook more power. In a letter to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Trump's former Vice President Mike Pence encouraged lawmakers to pass the bill, saying there can be no doubt that this app is Chinese spyware and that a sale to a non-foreign adversary company is in the best interests of the American people. TikTok says it never shared its information with the Chinese government. Users say a ban would impact small businesses who rely on the platform for marketing and selling products.
My whole business would be devastated. Yeah, I would lose the opportunity to connect with millions of people on a regular basis, and the community that I've worked really hard to build would be gone.
The bill now heads to the U.S. Senate, where its passage is uncertain. President Biden says he'll sign the law if it reaches his desk. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
A leading political researcher warns China is waging a hot cultural war against the United States and winning. In his New York Times best-selling book, Blood Money, author Peter Schweitzer contends transgender causes are at the forefront of this war, and TikTok is one vehicle used in the battle to corrupt young American minds. On this week's episode of The Global Lane, Schweitzer explains how wealthy Chinese businessmen are transforming America without firing a shot.
This was probably the most surprising finding in the book. There are 2 billionaires in China that have poured tens of millions of dollars into transgender causes in the United States. One of them is actually an American named Roy Singham. He built a business. He sold that business to an investment fund that's partly owned by the Chinese government. That made him a billionaire, and he moved to China. He's sympathetic to the CCP. He supports their positions, and he's poured $161 million into radical causes in the United States over the last couple of years. Among them is the transgender issue. The second billionaire is a guy named Joe Tsai. Joe Tsai was the co-founder and the current chairman of Alibaba, which is a massive company in China. It's basically their equivalent of Amazon. But unlike Amazon in the United States, this is a business that's closely wedded to the Chinese government. Joe Tsai has poured tens of millions of dollars into research related to the transgender issue. What's troubling about these actions is not only their support of the cause, but the fact that they don't actually advocate for these causes in China itself, which leads me to believe that they see it more as a disruptive force in American society than something that they actually embrace as a belief system.
Well, how about critical race theory and the diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda in our educational institutions? What did you find there? Do they have influence on that?
Yes, they're doing a lot on social media to lead to disruptive social chaos. So if you look in the online space, China has thousands of military personnel who in turn each set up thousands of social media accounts in the West posing as Americans. And what they do is basically have half of those social media accounts send out messages that America is a hopelessly racist society and it's irredeemable. The other half of them send out messages that effectively say, I only like white people, I don't like minorities. They're actively trying to pit American against American, and it's working. If there's a note of optimism in this book, I think it would be that perhaps we are not quite as divided on these issues that we think we are. Certainly, there are extreme groups in the United States that are advocating this view about America being irredeemably racist. But I think it's a small minority. It's only being magnified by these efforts of China to sow racial discord in the United States.
And you've been actively involved in countering or trying to counter the election efforts to steal elections. How concerned are you about Chinese communist influence on young minds, especially on social media in this election year?
Oh, they absolutely, I quote them extensively, they absolutely see TikTok as a tool, a vehicle, a Trojan horse, as one Chinese military officer puts it, to undermine the United States. They want to change the identity and values of America's young people. Again, those are their words, not mine. Certainly political elections is part of that, but they have a deeper goal, which is to get younger generation of Americans to embrace their value systems rather than those of the United States.
So what do we do about all this, Peter? The corruption, the influence, it runs deep. Is it too late to reverse the trend?
No, it's never too late. What we need to do, first of all, is deal with Chinese political influence in Washington, D.C. The fact that Chinese companies like TikTok are able to essentially get half a dozen former U.S. senators on the payroll to run interference for them in Washington, D.C., I think is an outrage. It needs to begin there. It also needs to begin with education. People need to be aware of what's going on. Anybody who allows their children to be on TikTok, I think, is making a huge and profound mistake. Any adult who's on TikTok who thinks they're not going to be influenced by this stuff is making a huge mistake. If we are informed, if we are equipped, we can absolutely win this war.
Okay, the book is Blood Money, Why the Powerful Turn a Blind Eye While China Kills Americans. Another New York Times #1. Peter Schweizer, thank you for sharing those alarming insights with us. God bless you.
God bless you, too.
Also in this week's episode of The Global Lane, more with author Peter Schweizer, who explains how a wealthy Chinese businessman is working with a Mexican drug cartel to move deadly fentanyl into the United States, and a look at why Israel feels it must cross President Biden's red line if it hopes to defeat Hamas. You can catch The Global Lane this evening on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 8 Eastern. You can also see it on the CBN News app, or you can watch it on YouTube. Still ahead, many states have passed bans against abortion since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade last year, and abortion advocates are trying to change those pro-life laws. We're going to bring you a look at one of the states where the battle is underway, Arkansas, right after this. Since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade last year, abortion advocates throughout the country have been hard at work trying to legalize abortion in many states that banned it after the court's decision. CBN contributing correspondent Paul Petit takes a closer look at how pro-life groups are battling the effort of abortion and what they're up against in Arkansas.
Decline to sign is the theme of Arkansas pro-life advocates as they fight to keep a state abortion ban in place.
Arkansas is the most pro-life state in the union. The only reason that a woman could get an abortion in the state of Arkansas is for a medical emergency.
The goal of these rallies, keep voters from signing to add an amendment initiative to the November ballot. The amendment aims to enshrine abortion access in the state constitution. Arkansas was one of 13 states with a trigger law, which banned abortion after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in June. The Dobbs ruling allows states to decide. So far, abortion advocates have seen success in 6 states to make abortion legal again through the voting process. In 2024, there are efforts in as many as 13.
The key thing to know about these ballot initiatives all across the country is that they permanently change state constitutions. Your elected officials cannot go back and reverse the effects of these abortion amendments should they make it into your state constitution.
90,000 signatures must be gathered by July 5th to get the measure on the Arkansas November ballot. Local abortion advocates are confident they'll reach that number.
We have momentum on our side. So Ohio, Kansas, Kentucky with the governor's race, Michigan, all of these states give us hope that through the direct action of people, we can restore some access for abortion services in this state. This is a great amendment for people who have nuanced views or might identify as more in the middle.
According to Arkansas pro-life groups, what abortion advocates are not telling people at these signature drives is how their efforts, if successful, will open the floodgates to abortion on demand at places like this and throughout Arkansas.
It's an extremely deceptive amendment.
They want abortion legal for any reason up to 18 weeks, which is basically 20 weeks for the baby. And then after that, it would be for, in the exception of rape, incest, or the health of the mother. And health can be defined as I'm feeling depressed. And the definition of health is by the abortionist.
How do you think that women, or any voter who believes that abortion should be allowed if the mother's life at risk,
How do you think they would respond if they knew the real language?
If they knew that this law will make null and void all of the pro-life laws in the state of Arkansas. That means no parental consent for minors. That means no health inspections on the abortion centers. If they knew the full extent, the extreme nature of this amendment, they would be against it.
In an effort to keep the measure off the ballot, Arkansas pro-life organizations, churches, legislators, and citizens are joining forces to educate and mobilize.
In a matter of a week and a half, members from the Arkansas Coalition for Life, or NWA Coalition for Life, had gone to over 300 churches in the Northwest Arkansas area. And so we've taken that strategy and we've started doing it all across the state.
Pro-life advocates say they'll continue the fight to ensure abortion access that voters approved in other states doesn't happen in Arkansas.
It's so important that we win. It is a life or death situation.
In Arkansas, Paul Petit, CBN News.
We'll be right back with an encouraging word for your Thursday ahead. Stay with us, please.
Download the CBN News app, 24/7 news from a Christian perspective at home or on the road. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Set daily prayer goals and pray for news stories. Read the most important news and watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Go to cbnnewsapp.com to get the app today.
Inside scoop on Washington politics from the DC Debrief podcast. Don't miss this unique CBN News perspective straight from the nation's capital, because truth matters.
Time now for your Thursday Thankful. I hope you'll join me in this prayer of gratitude for today and every day. God, thank you for your word. It is alive and full of power, and it's working for my good. With that, may we all spend more time with his word and in his word. It comes with blessings beyond compare. With this prayer and this truth, may this be a Thursday filled with thanksgiving. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time as well as online. That's cbnnews.com. Take a moment, let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. Any day, you can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.